Welcome to the Modern Homes Podcast with Rob Clemens and Frank Dominic. Frank, what's up, buddy?
Homes
are up. Well, wouldn't you think that was going to be the case on the Modern Homes Podcast? Well, hey, look, I got some interesting information for us to talk about today.
Okay.
So we're going to dive into that in a little bit. But before we get into that, as I like to do, I want to talk a little bit about Myrtle Beach, man. You know, Myrtle Beach has been popping off. We're in Halloween time. Mm-hmm. We got some big events coming up.
Just had the Fall Bike Week.
Fall Bike Week came up. Did you get on a motorcycle and ride around? How did you handle it? No? Mm-hmm. Are you a motorcycle guy?
No.
No, not. You know,
they're cool looking. I saw some.
Yeah, they're cool. Okay, so if you're going to get a motorcycle, you get a Harley, the one with the big handlebars.
Hangers, they call it.
Yeah.
I would get like one of those big gliders. I think if I'm going to do it,
right.
Or something tricked out.
Not a tricycle, kind of one of the trikes.
No, tricycles don't look comfortable.
No,
but I saw those ones. I don't know if you've seen them. They got the giant front wheel.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It's like an exaggerated front wheel. It's a new style of like.
I don't think I've seen the...
It was crazy. It was a whole bunch of them.
Wow, sounds interesting. Well, if you're a biker out there, welcome to Myrtle Beach. We enjoyed having you, and now we're over that. We got a little Halloween coming up. So, Carolina Bays, our mothership, as I like to call it here at the Modern Homes Podcast, we're going to be doing some... We got a pretty busy...
You do a couple events, yeah.
We got a couple events coming up. One thing that I wanted to talk about, the Champion Autism Network, they're doing their Meatball Challenge on the 26th. So I'd like to invite everybody out there. Come by and see Carolina Bays. We are a sponsor of this, and this is a great program, Frank.
Meatball Challenge?
It's their meatball. I think they call it the Beach Balls Meatballs Challenge, something like that. And
people submitting their own recipes?
People can come in, and I would imagine in the spirit of any challenge, there's going to be multiple meatballs being
kind of like a chili cook-off.
Probably something like that. And we're a sponsor, and I met them at one of the Leader Mentality shows we were doing, and she was talking about the struggles that some families go through when they have somebody that might have autism in the family, and it's really heartwarming what they've done, and they enlightened me to a couple of things that I thought we would talk about. One of them is, did you know, a little trivia here, did you know that Myrtle Beach International Airport has only the second quiet room in the country that was created? I don't know if it still is number 2, but when they created it, was the second one, and it's a low stress atmosphere for somebody, right? Yeah, somebody who might be a person of need that somebody possibly with autism that struggles with that. So I thought that was great. And then here's another one. Surfside, the town of Surfside, which is, for those who are out of the area, Surfside is just north of Myrtle Beach. They are considered the first autism-friendly tourist destination.
I do know that.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Well done to Surfside, and look, in all seriousness, well done to anybody that's out there in this world, and they're just trying to find a way to make things better. We all get in this habit sometimes of why me and why am I going through this, and then you realize there's people who have it a lot worse.
I always say that we're all fortunate. We just have to pay attention to the fortune.
Yeah, right. Well said, man. You have to look at what to be grateful for, because there are people, but sometimes just doing something about something. I think that's amazing, man. It's like, hey, I'm having this hard problem. Well, let me solve my problem, but what if I can do something good for everybody else? So anyway, we're going to be at the Meatball Challenge. Come see us.
Whoever created those things could have very well just helped themselves rectify.
100%. Yeah, exactly. So help everybody.
Impressive.
Coastal Carolina football's in mid-swing, so come see Coastal Carolina football at the home games, and of course, Carolina Bays is there.
Carolina Bays is definitely there.
I want to do a Modern Homes podcast from a Coastal football game beforehand. You in?
Yeah.
Yeah, man, we can do that right there. So, all right, well, cool stuff. Well, let's dive into some things, Frank. I was on the internets, as some people like to call it, and I was looking at something on Realtor.com, and I thought it was kind of funny, so I thought we would share this, because I'd like to get your perspective and my perspective on this. They said, this is the title, "Am I Annoying My Realtor? 6 Things Buyers Do That Real Estate Agents Hate." How about that?
Okay.
Are you ready?
Sure.
All right. Now, by the way, over at Carolina Bays Real Estate, where we do a lot of business, we don't hate anything that our buyers hate.
That's why I made that face. I'm kind of curious, because I've had people at the end of the process say, were we annoying? And I'm like, no.
No.
This is the biggest purchase of your life.
I mean, honestly, right? And now I will say, now let's be real. Sure. Some people are less troubling than others. So sometimes I'll get done with a transaction or just anything, and I'll just be like, man, you guys were so great to work with, and I'm appreciative of that.
Oh yeah, and I'll tell people,
man, if you're 100%. A buyer out there, man, you can be a great buyer, and and that's appreciated. So anyway, and I kind of took this as a tongue-in-cheek thing, but it's a good thing to talk about because these are things that, as you read through this list, it's not really so much about really annoying your realtor. It's more about ways that you can be more successful in maybe buying a property and or selling a property. So here we go. Let's dive in. Sure. Number one, caring too much about aesthetics. So what they're saying here is, so you're showing your 10th home to somebody, 10th, 15th home, whatever, and they walk in, as soon as they walk through the door, I'm talking about the buyers, they go, oh, I don't like this carpet. Yeah, this ain't gonna work. And they're walking on, and you're going, but wait a minute, it's carpet. We can change that. What your thoughts? Have you run into this?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. I had the one that stands out, and I was kind of siding with them as we were looking in a community where it was a nice home. And it was made very well, but the choice of counters they put in the kitchen, which were rather large set of stone, it was like an odd pinkish salmon color.
Yeah.
And it was a strong color because the rest of the house was neutral. Everything else we looked at in that area was neutral. They loved the house, and then they thought, as soon as we move in, we're always going to be bothered by that counter. And that's not a huge expense, but it was a deterrent enough.
I get you, but here's my message to the buyers.
Salmon, though.
Yeah, well,
strong, bro.
Where was it? I've been looking for a salmon countertop.
It was between Myrtle and North Myrtle.
It might be worth a lot of money. I don't think those are very common.
The house was nice, man, but that kitchen was a little tough.
But here's the thing, and for the seller of that house, but also for the buyer of that house, you know that might be a deterrent that is keeping people away. It might give you a chance to make a great offer and then change out the tops.
Well, truth be told, it was new construction.
Oh boy!
So I don't know how many times they used that shade of stone.
Yeah.
Like to me, it had more of a tannish quality, but when the light hit it a certain way, the wife's like, looks like salmon. I was like,
yeah. So who's the problem here? Is it really the interior designer at that point?
I think it was probably a supplier gave him a deal on something that would fit that house. Because I looked at several homes by that builder. I never saw that before.
Well, that's fair.
So one of the things we added as a concession, would they switch that out? Because it was an unoccupied house.
Yeah.
And they're like, no.
Oh well, I mean.
So I went for another angle. I said, can we work on the price a little bit? And they were conceding the price a little bit. But at that point, my buyers were like, let's look at some other stuff.
Fair enough. Well, I would tell you the takeaway is honestly, you got to look at what you're doing inside the house, but don't get so stuck on the aesthetics. Those can be changed. They have that frame. They have the phrase, the house has good bones, used too often for sure, but how's the structure? Let's start there. All right, how about this, tipping your hand? And when they say tipping your hand, and again we're talking about the buyers, walking in a house and being very vocal about what you think, especially when the seller is there. This is honestly think that's a problem. It can be uncomfortable a little bit.
I have a very short pep talk I give with my buyers.
Pep talk, okay.
Before we go in to see our first house, and if we're doing multiple days, because a lot of times we have people coming in from out of town, it'll be like a Friday, then a Saturday, and a Sunday. We look at different homes. I'll tell them before we look at the very first house. Hey, there could be cameras. We all have cameras in our home, outside our home. Even walking up, you can say things like, "Can we take a look at that?" But I love it, or "This is awful." Keep that to yourself. Yeah,
well, very much, and also this is amazing. It's like, well, your kid, you could.
This is exactly what I'm looking for. Think they'll knock it down 20? No,
yeah, exactly.
They're not going to do it now.
Yeah, you tipped your hand, as they say. One thing you made me think about.
Aces, I got them.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Let's play some poker. Here's my hand. But no, the thing that made me laugh is you just talked about how there's like hidden cameras everywhere. If you ever want to have some fun, go on to Instagram, TikTok, wherever you like to view your videos, and they have these ring cam bloopers. People falling down, and oh god,
guy going out with his coffee and sliding down on the ice.
I like the one where he slides down on the ice, but he doesn't get up. He just keeps going. He just slides and he's just laying there, and I'm like, oh, this is classic. All right, moving on. Well,
that's a legit one, though.
Okay, it is a legit one. Well, the first one's a legit one too, but that one's specific. All right, number 3, waiting too long, and the
very common
context is, you're sitting there and you go, well, let me ponder. I love this house, but let me ponder, or let me look at a few more houses, and then when you finally make the offer, guess what? It's off the market.
All realtors are going through that little process now because people are like, I'm going to see what the rates do.
Oh yeah.
But when the rates come down, your prices are going to go up.
Hey, we're going to see who wins the election first. I
mean, think about it. Historically, folks, when interest rates go down, home prices go up. It's not a selling ploy. It's a fact.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, the truth of the matter is if you find something you like and the home value is reasonable and your agent can tell you this, you should buy it, man. Wait in until tomorrow. I always have people say we're going to see if the prices go down. Historically, the prices don't go down.
One of my mortgage people that I use always has a very quick line to say to people that are on the fence: you marry the house, you don't marry the rate.
Right.
Because if you see a point and a half move in the future, you're going to refi.
Yeah.
The other thing is, I don't care how much the rates are coming down; they're not coming down that fast.
No, they're not coming down that fast.
It will never do that. They'll never plummet.
Now, where does mirroring the shag carpet in the great room? Where is that?
Shag carpet's a bad
thing. Right. All right. Next up, ignoring what the seller wants. Now, let me give this some context. It says, real estate isn't like other business deals. You're buying from another person who has to choose you as the buyer.
Yeah, sure.
So you're ignoring what the seller wants. Sometimes we go in and we're like, oh, I want this, and I want this, and I want this. And at some point the seller's like, well, why the heck would I work with you then? And I got a story on that one. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I agree because, again, it's starting to dissipate a little bit more. And I try to kind of help dissipate it where people are like, they're coming from up north or out west. So like, tell them it's a cash offer.
Yeah.
It means nothing.
Yeah.
Because if your cash offer is $5 and somebody's going to get a mortgage for $570, your $5 doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, that matters not to me. The only place it does come in handy is if
between two deals.
You don't have to worry about appraisals.
Between two deals as well, too.
Well, yeah.
One's cash and one's finance.
Right. But I look at it as if you don't have to worry about appraisal, you can get a quicker closing with cash. So there's a couple of little benefits, but I'm with you, man.
I've had clients lose on contingencies because their contingency was a little bit more strident than somebody else's. Like saying they needed 2 months for their house to sell, or they had something, or other people had nothing to sell. That offer got picked first.
Well, so, and that's valid. I want to talk about a story. This is a real one that I heard the other day. I've never heard this before, but I was walking through a house. The people were looking for a remodel, looking to update some things in their house, and the home was a little bit older. But I was talking to them, and, you know, sometimes I have that question in my head of why are you spending so much money on a remodel? You can just sell your home and go buy another one. And he said, we got a phenomenal deal on the house. And you know, as we were talking about it, he said, we actually offered less than some of the people they had offers from. But the reason they picked us, the seller picked us, the buyer, is because we talked about how we were going to honor the home. And you know, we had small kids and we wanted to raise them in this neighborhood. And he said that seller had that dream of, like, they wanted to see the neighborhood continue to grow and in that way. And I thought, look, it doesn't matter whether that's a logical move by the seller or not. It's a fact. You have to consider there's an emotion.
You have to.
You know, look, this is somewhere
it's odd to me if you're not there anymore, but I can get it if it's someplace maybe you grew up in.
Dude, it's not that odd.
It's not.
Let me tell you this.
It sounds like it, but then when you
okay,
it out.
It's your grandmother's house.
There you go.
You visited there every Christmas your whole life, and all of a sudden you got somebody coming in. They're like, "I love this house. I just want to keep it just like it is." And you're going, "That's grandma's memory." The other person comes in, and we're going to take it and we're going to raise the whole property. You know, you're going, well, I kind of want you.
I'm also self-aware that I'm missing nostalgia in I don't have much of that.
You know,
no.
Frank Dominic, no nostalgia.
Not really.
On a scale from 1 to 10, you're like a 1 on the nostalgia rate?
3.
Yeah.
It has to be, like, I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
For years and years and years, people would say, you know, I lived on a river, and all family events were at our house. And a lot of friends came over and we would go out on the boat, go crabbing, crab feast, big meals, stuff like that. None of you guys wanted to buy your parents' house? It was like, well, first off, when my dad sold it, none of us had that kind of bread. Secondly, looking back at it, like, I drive by there occasionally, like once every 5 or 6 years, but I don't look at it and have that heartstring.
Man.
And I lived there for years.
Wow.
It just doesn't.
God, man.
I mean, the neighborhoods, it has a little bit, but I don't have that gene.
Man, geez. Man, I was about to start reminiscing with you about when we first met each other, but I'm moving right by that. Man.
I remember that. That was a couple years ago, but 10
and he
years
doesn't care at all. No. All right, cool deal.
Is that a bookstore?
Right.
We had coffee.
Man, it's starting to sound like a rom-com here.
Yep,
and then I bought him a coffee, and the rest was history. Thomas Slack was there.
He might have spiked it.
Yeah, right. All right, next up. Talking to the other team.
Ooh, bad move.
Now, here's what they said. The listing agent is not the enemy. And that was one of the things they said. They want to get that out of the way. Talking to the other team, like when it comes down to it, I think the context here, you're a buyer, and this is still a negotiation, though. And you got to be somewhat careful with the way you're doing it. And
I've had several buyers wanting to speak directly to the seller ask questions before negotiation. During negotiations, I'm like, no.
Yeah, yeah.
And again, I get it, but no, it's a bad move.
All right. Well,
you hired me for a reason.
Yeah, exactly. You trust the process.
Like if I hire an attorney
yeah.
to guide me legally, I'm not going to start suggesting to him how we handle a court proceeding.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, I mean, no, totally.
I don't tell my doctor, hey, do you want to maybe try taking that organ out instead of that one?
You know, if you hire Arnold Schwarzenegger to be your personal trainer, you're not going to be like, nah, Arnold, I'm not going to take that.
I don't know if you know what I'm doing here.
Arnold, I'm trying to bulk up.
Get to the chopper, get down.
I just wanted to give Frank an opportunity to do his Arnold.
Please, love it.
Last one.
California. That's it.
Carla, it's too hard.
He makes it 7 syllables.
Right, exactly. All right, last one. This is the last thing. Am I annoying my realtors? 6 things buyers do that real estate agents hate. Lowball on the counter offer. Lowballing on the counter offer. Yeah. I
have had 1 or 2 times where I'm like, I'm not going to present that.
It's tough, man. You know,
if it's within reason, like I will say there was a house recently that we put under contract. It was on for $345, and my buyer said, let's go in at $300.
Okay.
And I was like, we can. I said, but you want to start a negotiation, right?
Yeah.
She's like, yeah. And I'm like, well, let's think about that. And we came a little higher. I'm not going to give the number away because it may still be an active thing, but
Gotcha.
But it was a little more reasonable. I thought that 45 off of a house that depends on the house. I mean, if you're looking at $1 million home, that's not a lot of money. Well, you're looking at a $300,000 or $400,000 house, it's 10, 12%.
Now listen. I'm going to tell you something. I know this is the Modern Homes podcast, but sometimes I like to break into real life. Mm-hmm. And let's just not break the pretense of being real estate. If you are negotiating with anybody, you have to have a reasonable position of negotiation. I'm going to start with that. Everybody comes into town saying, oh, I'm looking for the deal. Well, be reasonable.
I have a simple question that always kills those unreasonable offers. It's real simple.
Yeah.
And this is how I've always negotiated with
I know where you're
people.
going with this.
Okay, what's your house worth right now that you're selling or you just sold? Oh, then they always throw some, it's worth $500,000. Would you look at an offer for $400,000? No.
Yeah.
But you want me to present an offer. And then the conversation changes.
You got to get your perspective right.
100%.
I kind of look at it. You and I had this conversation off the air the other day. I said, if I'm ever having a debate with somebody and they come with a completely unreasonable pretense, I don't even want to argue with you anyway. You're just wasting my time.
Don't engage it.
Yeah, so anyway, well, that is things that realtors do. I'm going to take a quick break, and then we're going to get back with our questions for the week. And before we get to that, thank you to our sponsors, Leader Mentality Show. We'll see you guys in a minute. All right, Frank, well, it is our time of the week where we're going to do a little bit of question and answer. So we are talking about Ask the Experts, Ask the Experts, as they would say. So you have a question for me you want to load up?
I do. This is actually for my daughter, Miranda.
Okay.
She had a question.
Nice.
Just curious.
Okay.
What would you say the cost difference is between, and this is going to be hard, but a custom home and a track home or a builder home?
The cost difference?
Cost difference roughly per square foot difference.
Well, let me get this out of the way.
It's a complex question because there's so many variables.
This will be a very long answer. I'm going to give you a truncated version.
Sure.
Okay. So here's the deal. I had a customer come in the other day and they said, I was driving down the road and I saw a track builder, and I'm not going to mention the one, and they said, it says homes from the 300s.
Yes.
And he goes, we're talking about building a custom home on our lot of a similar size, and you're telling me that for a similar sized home, you're going to be in the 400s. How did that happen? Like, why is it, what are they doing? Are they blowing smoke? And I said, no. This is the answer to that question. And it comes down to an economics principle that I think a lot of people understand. When that, first of all, any billboard that says from the 300s, $3.99 and 99 cents
is still from the 300s.
Still from the 300s. So that's the first thing. It's usually a teaser with some lower features. But the other thing is these communities, what they do is they clean cut the community, sell the lumber, dig the fill dirt, sell the fill dirt if they can, or reuse it. Then
it's a system.
It's a system, and then they get their foundations done. They talk to their subs. They say, we're going to give you 20 homes in a row, all in the same area, but you need to do it for 20 to 30% less than you would normally charge. So, and they can do it because they have buying power. They buy lumber in giant packages and get it for pennies on the dollar of what I'm doing. Now, I, as a custom builder, I say, hey, I'm going to build one home over here, Mr. Foundation guy. Well, he's not giving me a 30% discount. In fact, in some cases, it's a unique plan, so he's going to even charge extra because because it's...
Also, your client has the opportunity to tailor that foundation the way they want it.
100%.
The other house, they're getting what they're getting.
It's kind of like if I went and I wanted a painter to do me a custom painting from scratch. Well, that should be more than something that you're buying from the store and mass repeat. So to answer the question, I'm just going to say this. At this time, a modern custom home, you should be budgeting between $220 and $275 per heated square foot. And a tract home right now, with land included, you might be at $210 to $220 a square foot.
You're right on the money.
And
I've seen a few just recently. That's what they're looking at.
So the answer is, I mean, they're always going to be a little more expensive, but let's answer the unasked question. Why then do custom? Well, you have a unique property, which has protected property value, which has the things that you want in your home. So it's a great trade-off for those who are interested.
I always say the person building the home benefits from the customization more than anyone else.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because at the end of the day, I'll occasionally have clients that say, I want to look in that home, in that neighborhood because I know they're individually built homes or custom homes, or they're nicely built, whatever. But the majority of people are looking for 3-bedroom, 4 baths, whatever, in a certain area. That I really don't think it's not as big a feature that's custom built.
No, that's fair. You know, I will say this is one last comment regarding the whole custom home concept. So you get into this home and you put all these features in, you put yourself into it, and you think, well, I did this for me. But years ago, when the first housing crash happened, and around 08, 09, there were a lot of these tract home communities where, you know, there's in the community, there's 30 of the whatever model, okay?
Harbor Oak.
Yeah, and you just bought your home for, let's say, $300,000. And at that time, they were around there. And then we had the market crash, and this builder is desperate to sell homes. They have to sell this giant investment of homes. So now the builder goes down to $220 for the same model in the same community. Well, guess what happened to their property values? Well, the appraisals happened, and your value plummeted almost immediately. So that's what I'm talking about in one advantage of doing custom, but believe me, I like them both.
But if the whole neighborhood went down, your custom home's going down too.
Yeah, in theory, but it's harder correlation.
Harder, for sure.
For sure. So anyway, all right. So question for you, we hear a lot about people looking to be within a certain distance of their home. In other words, you know, where they live and where they work and where they play. What are you seeing in the typical market for people's desire to be close to their activities versus people who are saying, I don't care, I'll travel to get a better price? I mean, what's that market look like?
Right now, the general person is, I want to be no more than 30 or 40 minutes from the beach.
Okay. 30 or 40 from the beach. Okay, gotcha.
Like a short drive to the beach. You have some people that are, I had somebody a while back, a couple that was dead set on living in Barefoot.
Yeah.
And we just couldn't find a house in Barefoot that price to features to wants matched up.
Yeah.
And they ended up buying something closer to Merle's Inlet.
Okay.
And they loved their house.
Did they stretch the budget, or did they end up cutting?
No, they actually cut. They actually got more home. What the issue was happening was they had vacationed and had friends in that area. But it was in one of those condo developments. And they're like, oh, we're going to live in there, hang out with our friends. And then they had friends that were in Conway, and the part of Conway they were in, it wasn't their thing.
Okay.
But what ended up happening was every house we looked in Barefoot, and this is just how it's just the nature of the beast when those homes were built. They had a certain style to them, and they instantly saw, like, we want to change the kitchen, change that, and they're already at the top of their budget. And I'm like, anytime I can get something under the budget, they instantly were like, oh, there's so many remodeling things that have to happen. I'm like, we're in your parameters. So they actually sent me homes that were outside of that area. I didn't think it was going to go in there because they were so interested in that area, but that's actually what they bought. It's a beautiful house.
That's one thing I do see when I think about that question is there are people from out of the area who want to move and be at the beach, and then they realize that maybe the prices are a little higher than they thought they were going to be,
insurance is higher,
a little outside of the budget, insurance is higher. So they say, look, maybe I'll go to Loris, maybe I'll go to Gallivan's Ferry, and I take the hour-long drive to wherever. But you're still closer to the beach than you are wherever you're at. So
also a big contingent of people here move in within the first 2 or 3 years sell their house.
Yeah. Well,
after 2 years for the capital gains, there's a lot of
that's fair.
remodeling.
You know what? One thing beware of, my little tip. If anybody, realtor or otherwise, says, "Well, as the crow flies," watch out. That you got a spin coming.
Because you're 2 miles from the beach, but it's going to take you 30 to get to.
Yeah, as the crow flies, you're 2 miles away.
As the crow flies, I'm 5 miles from the beach.
But it's 3 hours drive.
But it's
anyway.
a 20-minute drive.
Right. Yeah. All right. Okay, you got one for me.
Well, this is a two-part question.
Okay.
Same question, two different features. What is the most energy efficient style of home for you to build for somebody if they did a custom home? Whereas a Cape Cod, that kind of thing. And the other thing is, what is the most bang for the buck on energy efficiency on the remodeling side? Because you do both.
Well, so I'll start off with the style of home. It's really not about the style. It's about the way the home is designed. So here's a couple of quick tips for somebody who wants to do something that's not going to cost them a lot of money, Frank, but it's actually going to save them money on energy. So let me be clear. You go put solar panels on your house, you're going to save money, but it's going to cost you money.
Oh, yes.
You go in and do certain things. You put in the really fancy geothermal heating system. That's going to save you money, but it's going to cost you money. Well, here's a couple of tips I do have. Not so much about the home style, but it might be about, like in the sense of low country versus Mediterranean.
Sure, yeah.
I'm talking about the way you design it. Number one is transom windows on that east and west side of the house can be very advantageous. Let me explain why. Transom window sits higher. A lot of times they're right up underneath the overhang almost. So if you think about the way that the sun travels, when you're in the winter time, that sun's low in the sky. And so that light comes into the house, and guess what? It brings heat with it. Heat's a good thing, right? In the winter time, we might like that free heat. Guess where the sun is in the summertime when it's really hot? It's high and over the... So what happens is now I'm not getting that direct heat gain from that. So that's tip number one. Look at your window placement and how you can do it. Here's another tip. For just talking about some energy efficient design. Sure. So the deciduous plants, okay, something like crepe myrtle is a good example. You plant them in front of your certain windows, okay, and what happens is during the winter time, what do? They lose their leaves, and you let that heat in from the sun once again. But guess what it's doing during the summertime? It's blossoming. It's blocking out the heat. So as you're out there looking at your home plants,
that's a pro tip right there.
Well, hey, look, that's what we do on the Modern
and not
Homes
too
podcast.
Expensive.
Yeah, and they're things that
they're a beautiful tree.
And you can do this with your house. And this is, there's things like the orientation of the house on the lot. There's a lot of things you can do, but those are two biggies.
Big with my wife being Chinese. Certain facing, all that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Talking about feng shui and such.
No, it's both of our parents were HVAC engineers, so it's where the sun rises and sets.
I love it.
Huge.
That's so cool, man.
I mean, if it was facing another way, like not buying a house.
Yeah. Very cool. Now, to go back to the remodel, just talking about things you can do to save money, I would tell you, a lot of the remodels you do will cost you money. So I'm a little hesitant to just say, here's the best bang for your buck. But I will tell you a couple of things that I would look into if I were doing a remodel or I wanted to kind of change around my heating bill. Number one, look at your HVAC. It's going to be expensive, no doubt, but especially the older homes.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You're going to see lower SEER ratings. Now, I'll share this with you. So every year, our codes tend to get a little bit more stringent. Not every year, but years ago, 10 SEER HVAC, that's fine. That's your seasonal energy efficiency rating. And you know a little bit about HVAC, of course. Nowadays, we're at 14 SEER, right? So we're at a higher level. But as that SEER rating goes up, the efficiency goes up. And I've seen a lot of people who, you're going to spend that money on the front end, but your house feels more cool, it feels more comfortable, and you do save the money over a period of time.
There's also, for anybody out there, if you're having that done, talk to more than one contractor, because there is also, when you had your 10 SEERs and your 12 SEERs were standard, going to a 14 or 15 at that point was not always economical because your HVAC equipment, on average, has a life of 12 years.
Sure.
So if your return on investment on that high spending, that's where that geothermal in some regions of the country, not as efficient. Well, because it's going to take, the equipment will wear out before you get that full. Now, you're going to have all the advantages while it's running, but if you're looking at dollars to dollars, you got to be right in your sweet spot on that.
That's a fair point. Well, one thing I will recommend, go look at your government tax credits. Yes. Solar still has tax credits, 30% on the federal level, 25% in the state of South Carolina. Geothermal, some of your local power companies will give you a savings for doing that and some kind of credit. So there's some reasons to do it. A couple other quick hitters: radiant barrier for your sheathing. That's a nice way to go. Spray foam insulation for your attic. Get out the last tip. Okay, I got one more tip, man. You can't get me started on something like this. your insulation that's done in attics, usually it's blown in fiberglass, right? So over a period of about 10 years, that insulation starts to compact. Now, it's the airspace between the insulation that creates all the value there. So one thing you should do is, if not topping off, at least I recommend go in and top off. Even better, that's a good time to go ahead and change it all out and get your spray foam. It'll save you money in the long run. Okay, I've got one last question for you, and this is our last question for the week. So right now, hurricanes are a big deal. We're seeing them in Florida, and God bless the people in Florida. We're all with you, and people in South Carolina, North Carolina.
I was just checking with a friend before we came on.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're all with you for sure. But this is a hot topic for your clients out there, and they're worried about hurricanes as they're doing their home search. What are you recommending to them as far as what they should be looking for?
I mean, you want to definitely be careful of at this time of the year. Mostly, it's exterior of your house. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, we get hit with storms, but if you're not on the water, chances of you getting high waters are not as very prevalent. But it's just different things that you have outside of your house, making sure everything's secure, that kind of thing.
Well, that's valid. Ed Piotrowski, local weatherman here. Ed's a great guy. He's been a local person who's done a lot for the area. He always says your biggest deaths usually come from the water, not the wind. Everybody thinks, oh man, look at all this wind coming in. It's usually the water that causes the problems and the deaths and such. I would say a couple of things that come to my mind. Number one, look at the flood zone you're in. Are you in a flood zone? Number one, and what is your elevation at that point? You want to make sure you're not putting yourself at risk.
I don't let anyone put an offer on a home unless we've discussed whether they are or are not in a flood zone.
Yeah, absolutely. Other valid questions come to my mind. What kind of storm protections provided with the house? Do the windows have impact windows, or do they have some kind of other protection? Older homes might not have had either, so you got to look at that. The shingles that are on the roof. I mean, there's a couple of things.
A lot of those things are you figure it also when you're ready to put an offer in on a house, or you're going through the process and you find out, most of the major providers, State Farm was the last provider locally that was insuring homes that were built near 2012. They no longer do that now. They're at 2015. And I actually have State Farm. I have a new home. And, we have once a year we go and talk to our agent. That was one of the things she talked about. It went from 2012 to 2015 because even at the 2012 standard, some people could be grandfathered in.
I have a tip for people regarding something similar to that. Check out, and I don't know if you ever heard of this, but again, since we're talking about hurricanes, this is very relevant right now, the South Carolina Safe Homes Program. South Carolina will help people with funding certain home improvements related to fortifying your roof with a more structural roof system. This is where a lot of damages from winds of storms come through. Or you can get storm protection for your windows, and the South Carolina will help you with the cost of some of those. So check out South Carolina Safe Homes online by the DOI. So, well, Frank, I think we've hit a show here. Any fun things you want to report coming up?
Nothing of note. Nope.
All right, well, good deal. Well, hey, listen, we appreciate you guys listening. We'll look forward to seeing you guys next time on the Modern Homes Podcast with Rob Clemens and Frank Dominic.